Hi, I'm Dave, back with another BookTube video. Sorry if the screen is just a little bit fuzzy today. I'm not exactly sure why. I am getting a new camera soon, so please endure that if it's bothering you a little bit today. So this is my third video as a booktuber. As I said, I am new to this, and so, we're kind of testing things out a little bit. Always appreciate your feedback. What I started in the last episode was sharing some of my favorite books from the last year. And the way I did this was I went back to my Goodreads account and I looked for books that I gave 5 stars to. And I realized there were some really interesting choices in there. So if you didn't see the first one, go back and take a look at that. But today I've got a few more that I want to tell you about. The first book is called War and Punishment: Putin, Zelensky, and the Path to Russia's Invasion of Ukraine. It is written by Mikhail Zygar. And the way I came upon this book is kind of interesting. Early in 2024, amidst all the headlines of the battle between Ukraine and Russia, I attended a lecture at a local university on the subject, and this Russian scholar was making a really interesting presentation on the history and everything else of the battle and what was going on today. And afterwards, I went up to the speaker, and sometimes I do that when I attend a lecture that I'm really interested in, and I asked him to recommend one book that I should read to help me gain a further understanding of the topic. And this is the book that he recommended. I'm glad he did. The author, Mikhail Zygar, is a journalist. He actually founded a news organization that covered Russia, and now he's written a book about his experiences, but even more importantly, about the history of what took these two nations to war. He goes in depth with a profile on Vladimir Zelensky from the Ukraine and how he rose to power in that nation, as well as very interesting observations about Vladimir Putin. And he writes not only about those two individuals, but about the historical context that took us to where we are today, and also talks about cultural differences. So he lays the groundwork of the current war historically, and the whole history of Ukraine and Russia and how hostilities have developed in recent years, as well as the role of propaganda. He talks about the geopolitical aspirations of both Russia and the Ukraine to be bigger players in the world. And Zygar's ultimate message is that these conflicts need to be resolved, or we will see even more bloodshed in the area. Of course, it's very easy to write that. The answer is, how does it come about? I recommend the book, particularly if you are interested in the background of the war between Ukraine and Russia. Second book I want to tell you about is also a power battle. This book is called Collision of Power: Trump, Bezos, and the Washington Post. It's written by Martin Barron. Now, Barron is a former editor of the Washington Post, so he has the insider's view of what was going on in the Post before Jeff Bezos came on the scene, the challenges of journalism today, and what is the likely future for journalism at the Washington Post. Now, he was there, of course, when Bezos bought the Washington Post. Bezos, of course, not only owns the Post, but Amazon and many other successful businesses. So Barron writes about what it was like when Barron bought the Post. A lot of people were very excited about the prospect because Bezos promised an infusion of cash at a time when all news organizations are struggling financially. And so they saw his role as being something that could help be the savior of the Washington Post. They talk about how he overhauled the newspaper, making a lot of suggestions and bringing his business acumen to the organization. However, a major part of the book is taking a look at Bezos's influence of the company and journalism. And that, of course, leads us to the role of Donald Trump. Donald Trump has and continues to make accusations about fake news. He's been highly critical of most major news organizations, including the Post. And so the book really delves into the role of Trump with the Washington Post and the role of journalism and how Jeff Bezos handled that. Now, this book, of course, was written well before the most recent kerfuffle, at which time Bezos apparently nixed an editorial in advance of the presidential campaign supporting Kamala Harris. And there were editors and reporters who quit the Post because of what they saw as his interference in journalism, despite the fact that he had promised never to interfere with journalism. So Collision of Power is a really good book if you're interested in power and politics and journalism. Third book I'll share with you today is about the presidency in the United States, but from a slightly different perspective. This book is called Accidental Presidents: 8 Men Who Changed America. It's written by Jared Cohen. The exploration of vice presidents who unexpectedly became president, how they did, what they did, and what happened to them. See, I told you it'd be interesting. One example was President John Tyler. His annexation of Texas was really a big deal, but despite the fact that people saw that as a great accomplishment, he failed to win re-election. Andrew Johnson became president after Abraham Lincoln's assassination. Johnson is seen as being somewhat lenient to the views of the South and how that impacted race relations in this country. Harry Truman became president after FDR's death. He became president, very difficult time during war, but he was also president post-war. He is seen as a person who largely was unprepared, particularly in the area of foreign relations and foreign policy and how that impacted his ability to lead. There's also other presidents like Millard Fillmore, Chester Arthur, Teddy Roosevelt, Warren Harding, and Calvin Coolidge. Now, another big part is most recently in our history, the presidency of Lyndon Johnson, who became president, of course, with the assassination of John F. Kennedy. He was largely hailed for his accomplishments in the area of civil rights, but of course he was also president during a very tumultuous time in our nation with the Vietnam War, which ultimately led to him not seeking re-election. So accidental presidents makes you really think about the process of how vice presidents are elected and how we often, consider them to be kind of like, a placeholder, realizing that their only job is to primarily be there if something happens to the president. This book talks about instances where they did become president. And finally, a book that I would have never guessed would have made my list of favorites of 2024, but it was such an intriguing book that it did rise to a 5-star rating for me. This book is called We Are Proud Boys: How a Right-Wing Street Gang Ushered in a New Era of American Extremism. It's written by Andy Campbell, and it talks about the Proud Boys and its development and growth within its own movement, but also its role in American politics. Now, we mostly know this group, Proud Boys, because of its role in the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th a few years ago. But we also learn about how they really tried to structure their organization, get more members, and become more than just, as the title suggests, a street gang. What I found about the book was that even though it gives us a really good inside view of this one organization, it really deals with extremism in the United States, something that is with us and probably will be with us for a long time to come. And those were the insights that I particularly enjoyed from reading that book. So those are just like 4 more books of my list of books that I like during 2024. Maybe in future videos, I'll sprinkle in a few more as we go along. I've also got some ideas for other future videos. One of the next videos I want to work on is how I have learned to retain more from the books I read. I've got some ideas that have kind of worked for me. Maybe you have some ideas on how you read and remember more. If you do, kindly post a comment below. Maybe I'll use some of those comments in my next video. As I said at the outset, I'm kind of new to this whole booktube thing. This is really only my third video. Hope to make many more, but I really need your encouragement and even your ideas of how I can make this this channel more relevant to viewers like you. So yeah, I appreciate your comments. Leave them below. But I'm also hoping that if you like this video, you will hit that like button and subscribe to this video, because the algorithm likes when people like and subscribe. And your subscription to this video will really encourage me to keep going. And you know, if after a month or so you don't like them, then you can unsubscribe. But I'd appreciate the encouragement, please. Hey, keep reading, and I'll be back soon.